Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited to have you here today. Today, we're diving into everything you need to know about ITIN, a complete guide designed specifically for non-US residents, immigrants, and entrepreneurs. Over the course of this presentation, we'll explore what ITINs are, why they matter, and how you can get one. So, let's get started and make this a valuable session for you all. Why this topic matters. Today, I want to talk about why understanding ITIN is so important. ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, plays a crucial role for a diverse group of people. This includes immigrants, freelancers, students, and business owners who may not have a social security number. It helps them legally file taxes in the US, which is essential for compliance and avoiding penalties. But it's not just about taxes. ITIN also grants access to various US systems and services. For example, it can be necessary for opening bank accounts, applying for loans, or even establishing credit. So, in the broader context of this presentation, understanding ITIN is key to navigating the US system effectively. It empowers these groups to participate fully and legally in the economy and society. Today, we'll explore what you will learn from this presentation. We'll cover the eligibility criteria, which helps you understand if you qualify for the program. We'll go over the documents you need to prepare, so you're ready to apply smoothly. We'll walk through each step of the process, making it clear what actions to take and when. We'll highlight the benefits you can receive, showing you the value of participating. And finally, we'll discuss the renewal process, so you know how to keep your benefits active over time. All of these points are connected to the overall goal of helping you navigate the system confidently and successfully. So, when it comes to who issues an ITIN, it's important to remember that it's the IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service. This is a common question because people often confuse the IRS with other agencies like the USCIS or SSA. But in this case, it's specifically the IRS that handles the issuance of ITINs. USCIS is responsible for immigration status, and SSA deals with social security numbers. The key point here is that the IRS is the authority that issues ITINs, which are used mainly for tax purposes. Understanding this connection is crucial because it helps clarify which agency you need to work with if you're applying for an ITIN and how it fits into the overall tax system. Today, I want to talk about the ITIN and how it relates to the US tax system. First, it's important to understand that anyone earning income in the US, regardless of their citizenship status, is required to file taxes. This includes non-citizens who may not have a social security number but still need to report their income. The ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, is a key part of this process. It's designed specifically for those who are not eligible for a social security number but still need to fulfill their tax obligations. So, whether you're working here temporarily or have other income sources, understanding the ITIN helps ensure you're compliant with US tax laws. This ties into the overall theme of managing your financial responsibilities correctly and understanding the tools available to do so. Let's take a closer look at the definition of an ITIN. ITIN stands for Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. It's a unique 9-digit number, and an important point is that it always starts with a 9. This number is issued by the IRS and is used specifically for tax purposes. It's essential to understand that the ITIN is not a form of work authorization or a social security number. Its primary purpose is to ensure that individuals who need to file taxes or fulfill tax obligations can do so, even if they are not eligible for a social security number. Recognizing this helps us appreciate how the ITIN fits into the broader tax system and why understanding its structure and purpose is so important. Today, I want to clarify the purpose of the ITIN. As many of you know, ITIN stands for Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. Its main purpose is solely for tax processing. It's important to understand that having an ITIN does not grant any work authorization. So, if you're thinking about employment or working legally in the country, an ITIN isn't the document that provides that permission. Instead, it's specifically used to ensure that individuals can comply with tax laws and fulfill their tax obligations. This understanding helps us stay focused on the correct use of the ITIN and avoids any confusion about its role in employment eligibility. Let's take a brief look at the history behind this regulation. It was introduced back in 1996, and its main purpose was to help foreign nationals comply with U.S. tax laws. This was an important development because it provided a clear framework for non-residents to meet their tax obligations properly. Understanding this history helps us see how the current rules were shaped to address the needs of international individuals working or earning income in the U.S. It's a key part of the overall picture of how the U.S. manages tax compliance across borders. Let's take a closer look at the ITIN format. It looks like this: 9XX7XXXXX. What does that mean? Well, the first part, starting with a 9, indicates that it's specifically issued for individuals who are not eligible for a social security number. The next section, with the 7, is part of the unique identifier that helps differentiate each number. And finally, the last 4 digits complete the sequence, making each ITIN unique to the individual. Understanding this format is crucial because it helps us verify and process tax-related documents accurately. It also reinforces how the ITIN system is designed to ensure privacy and security, while still allowing individuals to fulfill their tax obligations. So, in essence, recognizing the format helps us better understand the purpose and structure of the ITIN itself. Let's take a closer look at the issuer. In this context, the issuer is the IRS, which stands for the Internal Revenue Service. They are the organization responsible for issuing tax documents and overseeing tax compliance. Essentially, the IRS issues these forms to individuals who need to meet tax laws and regulations. So, whenever you see a tax form or document, it's issued by the IRS to help you report your income and pay any taxes owed. This connection between the issuer and compliance is crucial because it ensures that everyone is following the tax laws properly. Understanding who the issuer is helps us grasp the authority behind the documents and why they're essential for maintaining accurate and legal financial records. Let's talk about validity. One important aspect to keep in mind is that these credentials or documents will expire if they are not used for 3 consecutive years. In other words, if you don't engage with or utilize them within that time frame, they become invalid. This is a key point because it encourages ongoing engagement and ensures that the information or certification remains current and relevant. Throughout this presentation, we've emphasized the importance of maintaining valid credentials to stay up to date and compliant. So, always remember to use your credentials regularly or renew them before the expiration to avoid losing their validity. Now, let's talk about who needs an ITIN, specifically focusing on non-resident aliens. These are individuals who are not U.S. residents but still have a filing requirement. Essentially, if you're a non-resident alien and you must file a U.S. tax return, perhaps because you earned income in the U.S. or have certain other tax obligations, you'll need an ITIN. This number is important because it helps the IRS identify you for tax purposes when you're not eligible for a social security number. Recognizing these requirements is crucial, as it ties into our overall theme of understanding tax identification and compliance for different taxpayer groups. So, if you fall into this category, securing an ITIN becomes an essential step in fulfilling your U.S. tax responsibilities. Now, let's talk about who needs an ITIN, starting with resident aliens. These are individuals who meet the substantial presence test, meaning they've spent enough time in the United States to be considered residents for tax purposes. If you're a resident alien under this test, you might need an ITIN, especially if you're required to file a U.S. tax return or if you're claiming certain tax treaty benefits. It's important to understand this because even though you're not a U.S. citizen, your tax obligations can be just as complex. Recognizing whether you meet this test helps determine if an ITIN is necessary for your situation. So, keep this in mind as part of the broader picture of U.S. tax compliance. Now, let's talk about dependents or spouses. This part is all about the family members of U.S. citizens or residents who may be eligible for certain benefits or visa options. Specifically, we're referring to spouses and dependents, those family members who rely on the primary applicant. It's important to understand that these family members often have specific pathways to join or stay with their loved ones in the United States. Recognizing their needs and rights is a key part of navigating the immigration process successfully. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how these relationships impact eligibility and the overall immigration journey. Now, let's talk about foreign investors. These are individuals who earn U.S. income through property or investments here in the United States. Essentially, they're people from outside the U.S. who have financial interests in our economy, whether that's owning real estate or investing in businesses and financial markets. Understanding their role is important because they contribute significantly to our housing market and overall economy. They often have different tax considerations and compliance requirements, which can influence how we manage and regulate foreign investment. Connecting this to the broader theme of our presentation, recognizing the impact of foreign investors helps us appreciate the diverse sources of income and capital that shape our financial landscape. Their involvement can bring opportunities, but also requires us to be mindful of specific rules and policies we need to follow. Now, let's talk about international students. These are students, researchers, or scholars who have taxable U.S. income. Essentially, if you're studying or conducting research here and earning income that's taxable, you fall into this category. It's important to recognize that even though you might be here temporarily, you still have certain tax obligations. Understanding your status helps ensure you're complying with U.S. tax laws and taking advantage of any applicable benefits. Remember, this is a key part of managing your financial responsibilities while studying or working in the U.S., and it ties into our overall theme of navigating tax obligations effectively. Now, let's talk about freelancers, specifically those who are working across borders. These are foreign freelancers who collaborate with U.S. clients, bringing a global talent pool into the American market. This trend highlights how work is becoming more borderless, enabling companies to access skills from around the world without geographic limitations. It also introduces unique considerations, such as different legal frameworks, tax implications, and communication dynamics. Recognizing this growing segment is essential because it underscores the evolving nature of the workforce and the importance of adapting policies to support international freelance collaborations effectively. When you do not need an ITIN, it's important to understand that if you already have or qualify for a Social Security number, or SSN, then an ITIN isn't necessary. The SSN is the primary number used for tax and employment purposes in the United States. So, if you're eligible for an SSN, that's the number you should use instead of applying for an ITIN. This helps simplify things and ensures your records are consistent. Remember, the main reason you'd need an ITIN is if you don't qualify for an SSN, but if you do, it's best to use that. This point ties into the overall theme of understanding the right identification numbers for your situation to stay compliant with tax laws. So, let's talk about when you actually need an ITIN. If you find yourself in a situation where you have to file taxes, but you're not eligible for a Social Security number, then an ITIN becomes necessary. This often happens with non-resident aliens, certain visa holders, or others who need to meet tax obligations but don't qualify for an SSN. Remember, the key point here is that the ITIN is specifically for those who must file taxes but can't get an SSN. It's an important part of ensuring you're in compliance with tax laws, even if you don't have the usual identification number. This fits into the bigger picture of understanding different identification options and making sure your tax filings are accurate and complete. When discussing the tax purpose requirement, it's essential to understand that you must have a valid federal tax reason for applying. This means that your activities or the purpose behind your application need to align with recognized tax laws and regulations. Essentially, you can't just apply for something without a legitimate tax-related reason that supports your case. Highlighting this point is crucial because it ensures that all actions taken are compliant with federal tax rules. Connecting this to the overall theme, it reminds us that understanding and adhering to these tax purposes helps maintain legal integrity and avoids potential issues down the line. So, always make sure your application has a clear, valid tax purpose before moving forward. Now, let's talk about the age criteria for obtaining an ITIN. One of the great things is that there is no age limit. Any age is eligible for an ITIN, whether you're a child, a student, or even a senior. This flexibility ensures that everyone who needs an ITIN for tax purposes can apply, regardless of their age. It's an important point because it highlights how accessible the process is for people across all stages of life. Remember, this fits into the larger picture of making sure everyone complies with tax laws, no matter how young or old they are. Now, let's talk about proof of foreign status. It's important to understand that applicants must provide specific documents to verify both their identity and their foreign status. This is a crucial step in the process because it helps establish that the applicant is indeed a foreign national. When you're preparing your application, make sure to gather the right documents that can clearly prove who you are and that you are not a U.S. citizen. These documents are key to moving forward smoothly and avoiding delays. Remember, providing accurate and complete proof is essential for a successful application. So, always double-check that your documents are valid and up-to-date before submitting. This step ties into the overall theme of ensuring your application meets all the necessary requirements efficiently. When it comes to primary documents, the most preferred option is the passport. In many cases, a passport serves as a single, comprehensive document that can be used for multiple purposes. It's reliable and recognized internationally, which makes it a convenient choice. Using a passport as your primary document simplifies the process, especially since it typically contains all the necessary identification details in one place. So, when you're preparing your documents, always consider a passport as your go-to, single document option to meet most identification requirements efficiently. When it comes to verifying your identity, there are several alternative documents you can use beyond the usual options. These include your national ID, birth certificate, visa, or even a U.S. driver's license. Each of these documents serves as proof of identity and is accepted in different situations. It's important to understand that these options provide flexibility, especially if you don't have a passport or other primary ID. For example, a national ID or a birth certificate can confirm your identity and citizenship. A visa might be needed if you're traveling or applying for certain services, while a U.S. driver's license is a widely accepted form of ID for many transactions. The key takeaway here is that having these alternative documents prepared can make the process smoother and help you meet various verification requirements. This ties into the overall theme of understanding document options to ensure a secure and efficient identification process. When it comes to certified copies, the most important thing to remember is that they must be certified by the issuing agency. This certification acts as a guarantee that the copy is a true and accurate reproduction of the original document. It's not enough to just make a photocopy. It needs to be officially certified. This ensures its authenticity, especially when used for legal, official, or administrative purposes. Throughout this presentation, we've emphasized the importance of proper documentation, and certified copies are a key part of that process. Always verify that the agency issuing the document has properly certified the copy before relying on it. This step helps prevent issues down the line and maintains the integrity of your documentation. When submitting documents for dependents, it's important to include additional proof to support your claim. This can include school records, which help verify their identity and current status, or medical records that provide evidence of their relationship and health information. These documents are crucial because they help establish the dependency and ensure everything is in order. Remember, providing thorough documentation helps streamline the process and minimizes any delays. Overall, including these extra pieces of proof connects directly to our goal of making the application process as smooth and transparent as possible. Let's talk about translation rules. When dealing with non-English documents, it's essential that they are both translated and notarized. This means the translation has to be accurate and officially certified to be valid. Notarization adds a layer of authenticity, confirming that the translation is a true and accurate conversion of the original document. These steps are crucial to ensure that all documents meet legal and official standards, especially when they are part of important processes or submissions. Remember, adhering to these rules helps avoid delays or issues down the line, reinforcing the importance of proper document handling in our overall process. Now, let's take a closer look at the Form W-7 overview. This form is used specifically to apply for an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. It's important to remember that you don't file this separately. Instead, you submit it along with your tax return. This means that whenever you're filing your taxes and need an ITIN, the Form W-7 is the key document to get that process started. Understanding this connection helps streamline your filing process and ensures you have the correct identification number for tax purposes. So you're wondering where to get the W-7 form. Well, you have a few options. You can visit the IRS website, which is often the most convenient and fastest way to access the form. Alternatively, you can go directly to TAC offices, where staff can assist you in person. And finally, there are IRS-certified acceptance agents who are authorized to help you complete and submit the form. Remember, knowing where to get the W-7 is a key step in the process of applying for an ITIN, and choosing the right resource can make the whole experience smoother for you. Let's talk about filling key fields. It's really important to ensure all boxes are completed accurately. This might seem straightforward, but paying attention to detail here can save a lot of time later. Accurate entries help prevent errors and keep the process moving smoothly. Remember, each field supports the overall integrity of the data, so take a moment to double-check your work. By being thorough at this stage, we're setting a solid foundation for the next steps. This step ties into our overall theme of precision and diligence, which are essential for successful outcomes. Now, let's talk about attaching your tax return. It's important to include the correct form, such as the 1040, 1040NR, or a similar form that applies to your situation. This step ensures that the IRS has all the necessary information to process your return accurately. Remember, attaching the right form is crucial for avoiding delays or issues with your submission. Keep this in mind as part of the overall process to stay compliant and organized. When it comes to mailing your documents, it's important to send them to the correct address to ensure your application is processed smoothly. The designated address for mailing to the IRS ITIN operation is in Austin, Texas. Just remember, mailing to the right location helps prevent delays and keeps everything on track. This step is crucial in the overall process of obtaining or updating your ITIN, so make sure to double-check that you're sending your materials to this specific address in Austin. Processing time typically takes about 6 to 8 weeks. This means that once you've submitted everything, you'll need to be a bit patient as we work through the necessary steps. It's important to keep this time frame in mind so you can plan accordingly. While it might feel like a wait, it's a crucial part of ensuring everything is thoroughly reviewed and accurately processed. This timeframe helps us maintain quality and accuracy, which aligns with our overall goal of providing you with the best possible service. So, just a little patience, and we'll keep you updated throughout the process. Let's talk about IRS acceptance agents. These are authorized individuals who have the official capacity to verify your documents. Essentially, they are trusted professionals who can confirm your identity and support your application process. This role is important because it helps ensure that the information you provide is accurate and meets IRS standards. When you're working with an acceptance agent, you're benefiting from their expertise and authorized status, which can make the process smoother and more reliable. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding who can verify your documents is key to navigating tax-related procedures confidently and correctly. Now, let's talk about expiration. An important point to remember is that your ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, expires after 3 years of non-use. This means that if you haven't used your ITIN on a tax return for 3 consecutive years, it will no longer be valid. It's essential to keep track of this because if your ITIN expires, you'll need to renew it before you can use it for any tax-related purposes. This ties into the overall theme of maintaining your tax identification properly and ensuring your documentation stays current and valid. So, staying aware of the expiration timeline helps prevent any disruptions when you need to use your ITIN. All right, let's talk about the renewal process for the W-7. When renewing, you'll need to submit a new W-7 form. The key thing to remember here is that you do not have to attach a tax return when you're submitting this renewal. This makes the process a bit simpler and more straightforward. It's important to note that this step ensures your information stays up to date without the added complication of submitting additional documentation. Connecting this to the overall theme, staying current with your renewal helps maintain your compliance smoothly and avoids any potential delays or issues down the line. Now, let's talk about what to do if you obtain a Social Security number later on. It's important to inform the IRS to retire the ITIN once you have a valid SSN. This step helps prevent any confusion or overlap between the two identifiers. Essentially, once you get your SSN, the ITIN is no longer needed and should be officially retired. This ensures your records stay accurate and up to date, which is crucial for tax purposes. Remember, this process aligns with the overall goal of maintaining clear and correct taxpayer information. So, always make sure to notify the IRS when your SSN becomes available to keep everything streamlined and compliant. When it comes to updating your information, it's really important to keep everything current. If you have a change of name or address, make sure to report it promptly. This helps ensure that all your records are accurate and that you continue to receive important communications without any interruptions. Staying up to date is a key part of managing your information responsibly and maintaining a smooth relationship with the organization. Remember, notifying us of these changes is a simple but essential step to keep everything in order and avoid any potential issues down the line. Let's take a moment to differentiate between ITIN and SSN. The SSN, or Social Security number, is primarily issued to authorized workers in the United States. It's used for tracking earnings and calculating benefits. On the other hand, the ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, is specifically for tax reporting purposes. It's used by individuals who need to file taxes but are not eligible for an SSN. Understanding these distinctions is crucial because it helps us ensure proper documentation and compliance with tax laws, which is a key part of managing employment and tax responsibilities effectively. All right, let's clarify the difference between ITIN and EIN. An EIN, or Employer Identification Number, is primarily used for businesses. It's like a social security number for your company, helping the IRS identify your business for tax purposes. On the other hand, an ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, is for individuals who need a tax ID but are not eligible for a social security number. This often includes non-resident aliens and their dependents. Understanding which number to use is crucial because it ties directly into your tax responsibilities and compliance. Throughout this presentation, we've emphasized the importance of proper identification for both individuals and businesses. So recognizing the distinction between ITIN and EIN helps ensure you're handling your taxes correctly and efficiently. Now, let's take a closer look at this comparison table. On the left, we have the ITIN, which is primarily used for taxes only. This means it's mainly for individuals who need to file tax returns but might not be eligible for a social security number. Moving to the middle, we have the SSN, which stands for Social Security Number. This is used for work purposes, allowing individuals to legally work in the country and have access to social security benefits. And on the right, we see the EIN, or Employer Identification Number. This one is designated for businesses, helping them identify themselves for tax purposes, hearing, and other business-related activities. Understanding these distinctions is crucial because each identifier serves a specific purpose and is used in different contexts. Recognizing which number applies to your situation helps ensure you're complying with the correct regulations and can navigate the system smoothly. This table really highlights how these different identifiers fit into the overall framework of taxation, employment, and business operations. Let's take a look at some use case examples to see how correct identifiers are applied in real scenarios. These examples help us understand the proper way to use each identifier type, ensuring clarity and consistency. By reviewing these, we can better grasp how to implement these identifiers effectively in our own work. Remember, using identifiers correctly is key to maintaining data integrity and facilitating smooth communication across systems. So, as we go through these examples, keep in mind how they connect to the overall goal of standardization and accuracy in our processes. Now, let's talk about a common myth regarding the legal status of ITINs. Many people believe that having an ITIN grants them any kind of legal immigration status, but that's not the case. An ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, is simply a tool for tax purposes. It does not provide any legal immigration status or right to work in the United States. It's important to understand this distinction, especially as we discuss the broader landscape of immigration and legal pathways. Remember, an ITIN is purely for tax reporting and does not influence one's immigration standing. So always be clear on what an ITIN can and cannot do for you. Let's talk about a common myth related to work permits. Many people believe that having an ITIN, or Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, automatically allows you to work legally in the United States. However, that's not the case. An ITIN is simply used for tax purposes and does not grant any employment authorization. So, if you're thinking about working here, remember that an ITIN alone doesn't give you the legal right to be employed. You need to have the appropriate work permit or visa that explicitly authorizes employment. Understanding this distinction is important because it ties back to our overall theme of navigating legal requirements properly. Always make sure you're clear on what documentation is necessary to work legally, and don't assume that one document can replace another. Cuando estimos, manjando documentos importantes, uno de los errores más comunes que veo es enviar fotocopias normales en lugar de copias certificadas. Es fundamental entender que una fotocopia regular no tiene la misma validez legal que una copia certificada. Por eso, siempre debemos asegurarnos de enviar copias certificadas, y que son verificadas por una autoridad competente y garantizan que el documento es auténtico. Esto no solo evita retrasos en los procesos, sino que también nos protege de posibles rechazos o complications. Así que, en resumen, no escatimos en la calidad de las copias que enviamos. Siempre optimos por las certificadas para garantizar la validez y la aceptación del documento en cualquier trámite. Let's talk about a common mistake that can really cause delays or issues in the process: missing a tax return. It's crucial to always attach a valid tax return when required. Forgetting to include it can lead to unnecessary back and forth and even jeopardize the approval process. So, always double-check that you've attached the correct and complete tax return. This might seem like a small detail, but it's essential for keeping everything moving smoothly and making sure your documentation is solid. Remember, thoroughness and attention to detail are key parts of a successful submission. Benefits are really about how having proper documentation can open up a lot of opportunities. For example, it allows you to file taxes, which is essential for managing your finances and staying compliant with the law. When you file taxes, you might also be eligible for refunds, which can provide some extra financial relief. Additionally, having the right documentation makes it much easier to open bank accounts, helping you access financial services that are crucial for everyday life. Overall, these benefits highlight how important it is to have proper identification and documentation, not just for legal reasons, but also to improve your financial stability and independence. All right, let's talk about some practical tips to keep everything on track. First, always make sure to keep copies of your important documents. Having those backups is crucial in case anything unexpected happens. Second, remember to renew on time. Whether it's your registration, licenses, or other deadlines, timing is everything to avoid penalties. And finally, it's a good idea to track your progress or any questions you might have by using the IRS helpline. They're there to help, and staying proactive can save you a lot of trouble down the line. These small steps really tie into the bigger picture of staying compliant and organized, which is key to a smooth process overall. So, as we come to the final thoughts, I want to emphasize that ITIN truly serves as your gateway to financial inclusion here in the United States. It's more than just a number. It's a vital tool that can open doors to essential financial services. Whether you're looking to open a bank account, access credit, or establish a financial footprint, ITIN is a key step. Throughout this presentation, we've explored how ITIN helps bridge gaps and creates opportunities for those who may otherwise be excluded from the traditional financial system. Remember, achieving financial inclusion is not just about access. It's about empowering individuals and families to build a more secure and stable future. So, keep this in mind as you continue your efforts or discussions around financial services. ITIN is indeed a powerful enabler in this journey. Thank you all for your attention and engagement throughout this presentation. Now, we've reached the final slide, which is simply Q&A. I want to invite you to ask any questions you might have about the content we've discussed. Your questions are valuable because they help clarify key points and deepen understanding. Remember, the main ideas we covered, whether it's the strategies, the insights, or the overall approach, are all aimed at helping you apply this knowledge effectively. So don't hesitate to share your thoughts or seek further explanation. And again, I truly appreciate your time and attention today. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your questions.